Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. And Mac, we have a special all about the U episode today. It just felt right. So we're going to get into that. But Mac has been everywhere, guys. I'm sure he woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, 6 a.m. out of Tallahassee. We'll talk a little more Florida State on Friday. Maybe we won't. I don't know. It's rough. We can talk. We'll talk some Boston College on Friday because I was really impressed with them, Mac. But you've made it. You made it through week one, my friend.
We're back, and we're home. I get to pick up baby girl here in like an hour, which is great. It feels like forever since I've seen her. It's crazy. And look, it's fun. And look, you get it. It's cool. Great opportunity. But that was a long week one.
I know.
An emotional week one. Golly. I'm
And
ready
you
to
missed a little baby. I know.
Yeah, sprint into week two. Here we are. We made it. And it is all about the U. We've got our guy, DMoney, joining us from CanesInSight. Love his, just kind of insight, a little play on words there on the Canes. We've talked to him many, many times about Miami, and man, they are rolling. So, of course, we're going to ride this train with them. We have been really high on the Canes, but again, just to prove it and go show us is a totally different thing. So, as you guys know, it's tailgate season. We need you to go over to Ingles, get all of your stuff. They just are slammed with it. KG, I can't wait. I'm going to be in the upstate this week, so I get to go to my hometown Ingles. I can't wait. I'll be very excited to be able to go there. So anyway, really quick, a message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we get to DMoney and the Canes, baby.
At Ingles, we know your closest companions are the ones who are always there for you. The ones you trust to have your back, no matter what. Who make the hard times a little softer, and the good ones, somehow, a little better. That's what family is all about, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. Ingles, all the ingredients for family.
DMoney, my brother. This is a Canes podcast now, so we had to bring in a Canes analyst, a Canes host. Welcome back to the podcast, my man. Great to see you.
No, great to see you guys. Feeling great. Tough weekend for the ACC, but Miami hopefully did its part. And I know a lot of Canes fans are feeling a lot of relief and starting to get some big ideas in their head.
That's right. That's right. Well, here's the deal, KG. I want to hear his thoughts on the game. You were there, DMoney. Just give us kind of big picture. Let's go. Let's hear about it.
You know, when I watched the game, there were 2 things that really popped out. First is I thought back to all of the recruiting battles really going back 3 years. So Cristobal and Napier both came in at the same time and were forced to rebuild the rosters. And they went head to head on a lot of recruits. And when you go back and look at it and you look on the field, Francis Mauanoa, a right tackle, that was a Miami-Florida battle among others. Miami wins that battle, of course, gets his brother at linebacker as well, package deals. Those are 2 impact players on the roster. 2 other offensive linemen that played for Miami, both wins over Florida. You saw how the offensive line performed. You talk about Mark Fletcher, who scored 2 touchdowns. That was a recruiting win over Florida. Mish Powell, the safety from Washington, who transferred over to Miami. Miami got him, who the Gators wanted as their safety. They ended up settling for the lesser safety at Washington, Asa Turner, who you may have seen break his ankles against Xavier Restrepo when Xavier Restrepo did that spin move. So all these recruiting wins sort of add up. Of course, Jaden Rashada, which was really a debacle for the Florida Gators, kind of cementing their reputation as an NIL that doesn't pay. Of course, Miami has the opposite reputation. So these were not just recruiting battles that Miami won against other schools. These were direct battles with Florida. I think that showed itself on the field. Also, the coaching aspect. Of course, Mario received a lot of criticism, most of it fair, for what happened at Georgia Tech. That was pretty much the national perception of Miami season last year. But if you watch this game, the better coached team, separate from the talent gap, was the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, no offsides, no false starts. This is week 1. No unsportsmanlike penalties. You looked at the Gators, you saw 2 very critical roughing the passer penalties. You saw timeouts out of dead balls. You saw a lot of mistakes that were really, to me, just undisciplined. Call it week 1 football, but it wasn't happening on the other side for Miami. So that, to me, was the story. The recruiting wins against Florida and Miami being the more disciplined team in that week 1 performance.
Yeah, Danny, that's really interesting to detail kind of those Miami-Florida battles. And then you see the dividends 2 or 3 years later. But obviously, that's why we cover and why we are so interested in recruiting. let's talk about the environment, the atmosphere. I know you were probably sitting amongst other Canes fans, how they were feeling, how quiet the swamp got. Like, tell us more about that.
Well, I was kind of far. I was up in the sunshine seats up in 326, as you can see from my red face here.
You're one with the people, Danny. You're one with the people.
That was great. We were Canes fans, and it was loud up there. It wasn't that loud. You heard Cam Ward say that the Pac-12, in his opinion, was louder. I think there's a sense of dread or just uneasiness amongst the Gator fan base with their coach. They said they had confidence in the roster being rebuilt, but I think after the first couple of drives, they saw maybe talent gap and they could feel it. And that permeated throughout the stadium. So look, it was loud at times when there was that long touchdown run by Montreal Johnson. It got pretty loud, but it was not one of the louder environments I've been in. And that's what the Cane players seem to say. The Canes only got 4,000 tickets from the Gators, which is something Coach Cristobal complained about in the post game. But a lot of Miami fans scalped tickets. And as the game went on, probably by the third quarter, it was a Miami crowd. And when that Tom Petty song played in the fourth, it's pretty much just Miami fans singing it.
I love that, man, and I love the picking and poking to the Gators, which, as you should. It was an absolute beatdown for 60 minutes of football there. We keep talking about coaching and all these different things, and I want to bring this up because Mario Cristobal, as we all know, is Miami through and through. Been there, won a natty, captain, starter, all these different things. His passion after that game was electric. He's going up to the crowd, to his people, Canes fans, doing the chomp, breaking it over his knee. The post game sound, which we saw it. Nobody wanted us to see it, but we did. And just the passion in his voice and how much he loves his players and how much he loves Miami. That has to be really amazing from a fan perspective to see that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going into that. You mentioned the passion for his alma mater. Also, this guy's a maniac worker. I've heard from people that have worked with him or recruited against him. His work ethic, even amongst coaches who have insane work ethics, is a level above. So right. He puts a lot in.
Let me tell you this, Danny. Let me put a small insert on that. I text him the next morning. It's probably 7 a.m. and just say, Coach, unbelievable. Congratulations. Great win. He said, thank you so much, bro. A lot of fun. Already on to the next game tape, watching it right now.
And by the way, he's probably sent 50 texts before he texted you back because of the recruits. He's probably the most prolific texter in coaching history, from what I understand, the way he texts recruits. So that doesn't surprise me that he was so responsive on that. But yeah, works hard. And then also the fact that what happened at Georgia Tech took place, and really that was a national criticism of him, which is, again, warranted, and he'd take responsibility for that. Aside from, a true tragedy like an injury or something happening kind of like off the field, something actually real life serious. Beyond that, you can't have something happen worse as a coach than what happened in Georgia Tech, right? I mean, that's you. And it's not, there's a lot of reasons why teams win and lose games, but something like that, you really carry all that burden. And of course, everybody reminds you of it. That's how they perceive you. So he had a lot of adversity heading into this game. I think that's why you saw such a release after the game, because there was nothing to take that off his back between when it happened and this game. He just lives with it. And now a performance like this, I think, gives him a lot of relief.
And it really changes the national narrative. This is all that people are talking about with Miami. That Georgia Tech stuff, honestly, to me, is completely forgotten. Let's talk about Cam Ward, because I remember when we had you on in the spring talking about Miami, you were telling us everything we needed to know about Cam Ward, how he ended up at Miami, how excited everybody was. And we believed you, but everyone's going to hype up these new transfer quarterbacks, say it's the perfect fit, etc. He's the perfect fit. He was incredible to watch. 26 of 35 for 385, 3 touchdowns, had the 1 pick, but the pick didn't faze him at all. So relaxed in the pocket, so confident, able to use his legs to his advantage. I mean, it was incredible to watch it. I expected him to play well. I didn't expect that, honestly. Did you expect that? That's my question.
So, I've been out of practice. I saw Mac out of practice. Looked great, by the way. Looked like you're ready to go to the Fontainebleau pool or something like that.
Come on, baby.
But, I'm watching him do all the same things he did in the game, wearing the non-contact jersey, right? You couldn't hit him. So I was saying, all right, listen, he's doing all this here, but what's going to happen when they can hit him? And it's kind of like that Kanye West meme, right? It's like, I guess we'll never know, because he might as well have been wearing that non-contact jersey. They didn't get anywhere near him throughout the game. So basically, yeah, it looked exactly like it looked in practice because he had all day to throw. He had all his weapons available. Knock on wood, has been a healthy offseason. Miami's still pretty healthy. We'll talk about some of the injuries later. But, he has 4 receivers that are probably going to play in the NFL. He has a tight end that'll probably play in the NFL, and he has a running back that'll play in the NFL, and he has a very good offensive line, one of the best in the country. So he can kind of pick what he wants to do. And you saw him just being so casual in the pocket, just kind of sitting there like he's playing a video game. And it felt like that, at least watching it from my vantage point. I don't know how it looked to you guys, but it was unusual confidence and casual style of play. Even from that first down that he ran for, when he stepped outside to avoid contact, it was almost like a taunt the way he did it. He was staring at the defender, slowly stepped outside. So that was the feel of the game.
But the crazy part is he did that, Danny, like multiple times. And I'm just looking at him, and it's not a nonchalant, but it's almost like a taunt. It's literally like he's running and he's staring at you like, please hit me. You see these guys behind me? That will knock you out if you touch me. And just how slow everything looked to him. I mean, he was processing so quickly. And also, I think the confidence and the moxie to make some of the throws he made. You talked about, when people started leaving, when, he's rolling to the left, throws it back right. Even to have the thought to throw that is insane, but then actually doing it and doing it at a very high level. This guy threw for 74% in the swamp. I mean, the sky seems to be the limit. Where are you on where he can continue to grow? Is this just scratching the surface, or does this guy have even more that he can take it to another level?
I'm not making this comparison because he's not going to be this player. So I hope this does not get aggregated as far as this is who he's going to be as a caliber of player. Yeah. But in terms of the style that he is trying to emulate, you think of a Patrick Mahomes, even on the interception that he threw, you saw Patrick Mahomes throw those types of interceptions at Texas Tech. Again, not saying he's going to be the best player in the world. I don't think he will be. There's only one Patrick Mahomes, but that's the model that I think he is trying to emulate. So yeah, there's room to grow. I think as you go against better pass rushes, because let's be honest, the Gator defense ranked in the 120s in a lot of categories. Yes, it's SEC. Yes, they had good athletes. Yes, they were motivated, but this was not a good defense on paper. They didn't really add anybody. So you will face better defenses in the ACC. Maybe this is just ACC people talking, but I'm pretty sure you'll face quite a few defenses that are better in the ACC. And of course, if you get to the college football playoff, those top SEC defenses, different animal, particularly in the front. So he's going to have to adjust. I think you saw someone like Patrick Mahomes still had that style to him, but taking his checkdowns, just being a more game manager on top of the playmaking, just sort of learning where his limits are. I think you saw Patrick Mahomes make that progression in the NFL. Cam Ward still has a lot of room to grow as he faces more adversity.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I really can't. I want to talk about and give some flowers to Xavier Restrepo because he's a guy who's been with Miami since the jump. He's, been there through a few quarterbacks, and he's just so consistent, and he shows up. And I was happy for him to get this kind of, he's had games like this, but this kind of game on a national stage, and to have this type of quarterback this season, 7 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. I know he's a leader on this team, Danny, but what kind of impact does Restrepo have from what you've heard, locker room, practice, and then of course this type of performance?
Yeah, one of my favorite players ever since in 2021 when Miami played Alabama and got destroyed in the opening game. He was the only one who made a play, made a contested catch for a touchdown. Littlest guy on the field, probably the least amount of stars to his name of all those guys on the field. He's the only one that made a play in that game wearing a Miami uniform. And, ever since then, he's worked hard, he's made plays. And there was a segment of fans and maybe some people around the team, or at least family members and stuff like that, they were saying, well, he's only catching passes because he's TVD's roommate. Well, I guess he must have moved in with Cam Ward because Cam Ward was looking for him every single time. And as far as his impact, I think with him, it's very much the competitive tone that he sets. Like someone like Sam Brown, who came in as a transfer, he had a play where he did not score a touchdown. He probably should have scored where Cam Ward found him, and he could have made a guy miss, or at least just had a little more lean and gotten in the end zone. I think he failed to change the ball to the outside, and that hurt him in his ability to get in the end zone. Anyways, when you see Restrepo scoring, a guy like Sam Brown with NFL ability, he's got to elevate his game to match that. Or you see an Isaiah Horton, who was a 4-star receiver, kind of, I don't say underachieving, but he hadn't hit it yet. Had an incredible offseason, worked on his body, had a lot of catches here against Florida in the opening game. He's going to be a factor all season. I think Restrepo elevates the room because of his competitive nature and the fact that, look, I don't care if you're a 4-star, 5-star, 6'5", running 4.3, and I'm 5'9", running 4.5. You have to come to my level. And if you don't, I'm going to catch every ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, obviously all of that is it's so impressive to see from that guy. And he's such a leader, loves Miami. I mean, every time I get to talk to him, it just oozes out of him. But I was also impressed with, just the distribution of the ball. 10 different receivers or pass catchers, whether that's tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, in a game of this magnitude. I mean, that's a big deal. That means your quarterback, again, understands the offense completely, knows where to go with the football, knows how to get it out. But to go right along with that, Danny, the run game was sick. And that's what I expected. And I hear everything you're saying about, the quality of the defense probably wasn't elite in regards to what they might see for the rest of the season for the Gators there. But they are big. And to run against them is still impressive in their house. Right about 4.5 yards per clip, 152 on the ground. Really, really impressive stuff. What did you like what you saw from the offensive line and the running backs in that instance?
Yeah, I mean, that's to me pure recruiting and just Mario Cristobal establishing his identity through recruiting and then also the coaching, but the body types. Francis Mauanoa, I know you've talked about him a ton. I mean, we all know he's a first-round type of guy. Matt McCoy, who played a lot of the game at left guard, that was a win for Miami over Florida. He's from St. Augustine. And then Jalen Rivers is from Jacksonville, right in the heart of Gator country. He went to Miami and has really kind of been the leader of that offensive line. So those three guys right there, all big, all super athletic, all of NFL ability. And then Mark Fletcher, 230 plus pounds that Miami beat the Gators for. Of course, Damian Martinez, we all know what he can do. One of the best backs in the country. So these are big guys. They're athletic guys. And these are guys that have been coached to be physical. It's a physical tone in practice. Block destruction is Mario's favorite drill. So there's constant contact and physicality in practice on both sides of the ball. And right. I think that's what the goal was. I think when Mario came in, remember Napier came in with a similar reputation, right? Those Louisiana teams ran the ball. They had NFL offensive linemen. They had NFL running backs. I mean, that was a running operation at Louisiana. So both guys come in around the same time with a similar vision, but in terms of who's able to execute that vision, I think you see Mario Cristobal doing a better job of that.
Yeah. One more thing before we move to defense and KG jumps on some of that. Do you think this is what the offense will want to look like each game? Because I thought maybe it'd be a little bit different, maybe run the ball a little bit more. But you had such, efficiency and explosive plays through the air. Is this what we can expect or what we should expect that, Miami wants their offense to look like for the entire season?
I think Miami wants to be balanced, and balance is not 50-50. Balance means when they're giving you the run, you run. When they're giving you the explosive pass, you pass. When they're giving you underneath, you can go underneath and make someone miss. So I think that's what Miami has built towards. And they're not 2019 LSU, but they've really elevated that level of offensive talent. So they do have a lot of options, like you said. If they want a power run, they have power runners. If they want to throw underneath and have guys, make plays with the ball in their hands, you saw that. You saw the tight ends get involved. You didn't really see the downfield passing. I mean, you saw some explosive pass plays as far as over 20 yards, but you didn't see just going totally over the top, a 60-yard touchdown. They had that in their bag as well. Of course, Cam Ward's a very good deep ball thrower. So I think it's going to be the ability to adjust to what happens. Because last year, you saw when teams started playing pass like Georgia Tech did and dropping everybody, Miami had no answer for that with Tyler Van Dyke.
Right.
So can they adjust to what the defense does and hurt them in every single way? I think that's what this offense is supposed to be.
Yeah, and you generally can't do that with a mobile quarterback, especially the mobility that Cam Ward brings. Let's talk defense here, Danny. We've got to get into this defense. Held Florida to 17 points. More importantly, I thought that one of the biggest stats of the game was held him to 1 of 9 on third down. That was huge, especially when you can't convert third downs, you can't get momentum, especially in your own stadium. The fans get frustrated, as you mentioned. But the defense looked good overall. Give us your thoughts on the defense, and specifically Ruben Bain leaving on the first series. Sounds like it's nothing too serious, but give us an update there.
Yeah, Ruben Bain and also Damari Brown, number 6, a starting cornerback, both left with what were described as soft tissue injuries. It was cooking out there. I'm sure they took it easy with those guys. It was a huge game, of course, but you don't want a smaller injury to turn into a catastrophe. So I think those guys were held back with injuries that aren't going to be extended, hopefully, absences. But Miami was able to rush the passer without Ruben Bain. They brought in an Elijah Alston, number 11, who played a great game from Marshall. And, of course, Tyler Barron, number 9 from Tennessee, was outstanding. He looked the part. I mean, you talk about central casting defensive end. That is Tyler Barron, number 9. And he had a sack. He had multiple quarterback hits. He was outstanding. So Miami has a good amount of depth on their defensive line as far as pass rushers, which you like to see. And the cornerbacks played very well. They were probably the unit that had the most question marks coming into the game. You saw Graham Mertz test them quite a bit early, and they responded for the most part. Aside from a couple pass interferences, they really did a good job. So I think the defense did what it was supposed to do. The tackling was there, running to the ball, just the knockback. One thing that I noticed different from prior years is when Miami tackled the Florida Gators, they went backwards. And when Miami was running the ball, they went forward. It sounds so basic, but it was something Mario Cristobal really emphasized. There was a weakness when he first got here. He said, we're not a knockback operation. Right. And that's sort of football at its basic level. And I think Miami's really improved in that. You just watch every single tackle Miami made. They were tossing these guys backwards, whereas Martinez was always landing on his stomach with someone under him.
Dude, he was laying the freaking wood. That was fun to watch. That guy was delivering absolute strikes. And I think it's interesting, too. Not that you can take a play away, because clearly it happened. But, man, you take away that 70-yard run, dude, they were lighting them up. I mean, there was nothing there. And, look, your aggressive defense, Coach G's going to bring it. As I'm getting a FaceTime call, sorry, for my little baby. And it's just something that you have to continue to figure out, where if you're taking a shot, you might miss and they might hit it right behind you. So it's all good. They're going to figure it out and, continue to be a really good defense, I think. But what we want to ask you before we get you out of here, DMoney, what does this do for Miami? Because I was talking with EJ Manuel, with Taylor Tannenbaum, Eddie Royal, and we think this thing can really explode. You talk about that brand, you talk about talk about the excitement that is there right now. What does this win, the way you won, and the way that your quarterback played for the outlook of Miami for 24?
So I'll give you the positive and the negative. So in terms of just the positive, yes. I mean, Miami looked the part. You guys watched a lot of college football on Saturday and Sunday, I'm sure, as did I. And, there's not a huge difference between Miami and some of these top teams at a lot of positions, and the quarterback can elevate. Now, I would say defensive tackle and corner, teams like Georgia, teams like Alabama, teams like Ohio State, they have high round picks at those positions, which I think is still a little bit of a separator. But of course, Miami has Cam Ward, who can elevate a couple things. But Miami's talent level, I think when you watch all the games, held up pretty well, in my opinion, from what I've seen and from what I've heard from national commentators. I think the danger is, you look at last year, Miami had a big win over Texas A&M, which was an SEC team with a big brand that's probably going to have a bad season, like Florida is this year. And they had a soft schedule to start. So the thinking was, you get by Texas A&M, you're going to be rolling and you're going to win a lot of these easy games. Of course, Georgia Tech happened, and that kind of killed Miami's season. You look at Miami's schedule here. Of course, next week, FAMU, that's not going to really challenge Miami. Ball State, probably the same. USF, a tricky game at USF, but Miami should win there. But then you got Virginia Tech at home on Friday, under the lights, night game. Going to be very similar to the Georgia Tech game that they lost. Then you go to Cal, which is insane for a conference game, at Louisville, and then, of course, Florida State at home. So you don't want to get too far ahead, because we saw it last year where Miami couldn't really handle the success, played a bad game against Georgia Tech before the coaching error. So that's what you're trying to avoid. Mac, you've been on winning programs, the dangers that come with all this national attention. So that's what they have to counter. But as far as talent and balance, especially that second word, balance, I think Miami's got to be feeling pretty good about their roster and where they are, assuming health, and of course, assuming everybody keeps the right mindset.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal, man. That Friday night game, Miami might be in the top 5. We'll see. We're really excited about it. I think the Canes are rolling. It kind of checked a lot of things that I thought in my head. Now, I had a lot of thoughts about a lot of ACC teams that didn't get checked, but here we are with the Canes. Danny, appreciate you always, man. Hope we get to do this throughout the season because the Canes are rolling, my brother.
No, hope to see you guys in Miami with the packed house.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks again to Danny Enriquez for joining us. DMoney from CanesInSight. Go to CanesInsight.com. If you want to know anything about Miami, anything about the U, follow them on Twitter. They do such a great job over there. So really appreciate Danny. And I love that he was at the game too, Max, so he can give us that insight.
That's right.
As well as everything else he knows. Okay, let's recap a little Underdog real quick. For the Florida State BC game, your girl won some money because I did win 2 out of 3. I won $7.70. So, I mean, dinner's on me. Let's go. And I was pleased with Tommy Castellanos over 0.5 passing touchdowns, obviously. Ryan Fitzgerald over 1.5 field goals made. Love that. DJU, I said he would have over 14.5 rushing yards. That, of course, didn't hit. That one's always risky with the sack numbers and how it's calculated in college football. But obviously, I think any DJU picks really struggled. But Underdog Fantasy, get the app, use our code GMPOD right now. They offer bonus cash up to $1,000 when you sign up with our code. And let's just keep it going. I'm excited to do it for this week. You can do it in game as well, which I think is really interesting and fun. And it's just a unique way to get involved with college football, to get involved with the ACC. Yep. And so Underdog Fantasy, let's go. The easiest place to play fantasy sports, Eric McLean. How was your weekend on the old Underdog app?
It was good. It was as good as every other weekend has been, which is not good. Losing money only. And I tell you, it was really funny because I felt pretty good about this one. I really did. And how many rushing yards did he have again?
He finished with -5.
Sweet, -5. So I had one that would be under an 11.5 yard rush as a high. And I was like, no way, that's not happening.
As a single rush, yeah.
Feel really good. And then he casually escapes for 13 yards. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. My boy Tommy, I needed him to get like 50 yards rushing. I don't think we were halfway there maybe. And then the running backs for FSU continue to not be able to be involved in the offense. So it's all good. It's all good. We'll try again. We'll adapt and we'll know moving forward what to do. But anyway, appreciate you guys always. Another great episode. We have so much more stuff coming on Friday, as always. So many games to jump into. Cannot wait. We'll have our big 3 and then kind of go around the world as we do, giving you
around
a
the
little
coast.
Bit of insight. That's right, coast to coast. That's what we do here in the ACC. But appreciate you guys always. Need you to go subscribe, jump in, leave some comments. Tell us what you think about the Hurricanes. Are they for real? As real as we think? Do they have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback potentially? It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about and see how this season goes. But always appreciate you guys' support. And until next time, we'll see y'all.